Welcome back to another episode of the Downhill Rally Course. This time we have 3 more vehicles and we have the dummies. They are back. So this first vehicle we have the ETK I-Series. It's another rally car spec'd for gravel, and what I decided this episode, we were going to have an all-wheel drive, a front-wheel drive, and a rear-wheel drive, and see how they go. All the vehicles drove really well, actually. I was incredibly surprised by how well they all did. The I-Series here was definitely probably one of my most favorite cars of the set this time around, just because you could throw it, you could have some fun with it, and you'd also die. You can see this first run out, I wasn't doing too bad. I've gotten very used to the track and where I can take some risks. Coming down through the first, on the fast section, run a little bit out on the dirt, clip a rock, ended up upside down. Not a surprising thing to see that a rock is going to kill a car. The dummy ended up getting dislodged from his seat and found his way onto the roof. We came down to the first corner the next time around and just did an easy little spin. Did manage to get down to the dirt and then clipped a bush or a rock. Something hid in there, but it ruined the time, and that back wheel totally destroyed. Though at least it opened up all the passenger doors. Again, I came into the first corner a little too fast, came onto the fast stretch a little too fast, hit a rock. The big common thing with this car was just over pushing it. It's a very capable car. Did get a good run out of it though, and it didn't take too long. Like I said, all the cars this time around, they were real simple. Only took like 2-3 runs. This one had the most. And you can just drive the car so hard. Like, it's got really solid brakes, it's got good throttle response, so you can really get onto the power early, you can get onto the brakes. You have to be careful with the brakes because they will stop the car quickly. But you could also just carry a good amount of speed through the corners. You can see here, I mean, it's not up with like some of the crazy fast cars, but it did almost reach 100. And then it's nice and smooth as we reach up onto the highway area. Getting the car slowed down. Could leave it in second and keep it powering straight on through. And of course, being that it's a rally-built car, it even had no problems on the dirt. It's a really surprising thing considering the other 2 gravel spec vehicles kind of had me a little concerned for this one. You can see the brakes were phenomenal, getting the car stopped just perfect, so I could get down onto the dirt hill, pushing it pretty hard, trying to get the car around, and then it just digs in and heads down the dirt street, or dirt stretch. We're gonna call everything straights. We're getting up to 50 back here, managing to hold on to over 50 as we reach up towards the water. Now running almost to 70 as we hit the water. The water is always a questionable thing, so I always try and have as much speed as possible. And then up the dirt hill like it's not even there. Fantastic car. Definitely my favorite of the rally cars. Just because it's so consistent. And then due to it being an all-wheel drive car, we can't just throw it in a single circle, so we kind of, a little bit of a reverse donut thing there. It's not not very well. But yeah, this car was so good to drive. I had a great time every single time because even if I spun it, it was still like, okay, I should have slowed down a little sooner, or I gave it too much gas. You know, everything that happened with this car wasn't due to the brakes being overly strong. This next car, though, it's the V6 Sport version of the Legrand. It is a front-wheel drive car, though. So, naturally, I was very concerned about a lot of different factors with the car. One, it's not really a sports car, even though it's called the V6 Sport. And two, it's kind of just front wheel drive, so it's basically like your grandma's daily cruiser. Oh boy, super exciting, right? Well, the car actually accelerates pretty decent, all things considering, and it could turn well. The first time out, I did ended up trying to climb a mountain with it. It's not so good for that. But it does drive very well. And this car, you're getting to see the entire session with it because I didn't actually have to cut out a bunch of unnecessary driving or anything. Bringing it down the fast stretch, and unlike a lot of other front-wheel drive cars, this car doesn't have any issues with major understeer. It actually has enough power, I guess, to just pull itself around, and it doesn't really get bogged down too badly. Which is really nice because then it feels like the car can do what you want it to. So I started getting a little overconfident and, you know, pushing it a little too far. But it handled this well down onto the dirt. Again, I'm feeling super confident with this car at this point because, you know, first time really driving it, and it's just doing everything I'm wanting it to. No fear down the dirt hill. So, well, with the way the rally car went, this should be fine too, right? So, cutting it across the dirt, giving it a lot of speed, and here's where the understeer killed it. It just couldn't get around that corner at some of the speeds that I wanted to carry and ruined the car. It's, it'll buff out, right? I'm sure it'll be fine. But that's okay. The very next run, got it all the way through, no problem. And yeah, the car just grips. For a front wheel drive car, it actually has a lot of control. I made sure it didn't climb the mountain this time around. And it, like I said, it'll do whatever you want. The only thing you have to be aware of is that it has some soft suspension, so it's a little weird. But considering I just drove an all-wheel drive rally car, and then I was driving this, it really wasn't that much different. Coming up through the fast section, and it's just about as fast as the rally car, if not the same speed. But I was carrying a lot more speed through here. Did have to get on the brakes, but it slowed down much faster. So I was able to get right back on the power once I got around the corner. Now coming down the highway, get it up to 87 before I have to jump on the brakes hard. And then turn it into the dirt. And again, we go down the dirt hill. No problems here. There's been a couple times where I've grabbed the handbrake to try and make the car turn sooner, but this car has really, really good turn-in. Now being a little more cautious across the dirt because I'm really not wanting to smack it into the rock again. Almost had an exact repeat, but I missed it, so it was all good. Hit the water, and it got bogged down. Wasn't going nearly as fast as the rally car was when it hit the water. And then up the hill. The back end was getting a little odd on the dirt because there's no control on the back. The back is just kind of hanging out, doing whatever it wants, but the car did get across the line. It only took 2 tries. I thought it was going to be the first car that made it on its first run. You can see it has enough power to do some good little self-donuts in reverse. For a very mundane seeming car, I was really surprised by how well the thing drove. I mean, you could push it really hard, and it was okay with it. I expected it to float a lot more, have miles of understeer, but no. Now, the final vehicle that we have this time around is a Lowrider. You can see the dummy is hanging. Hold up. Did I not have the dummy? I didn't. So sadly, I guess I missed the dummy in this one. But you can see the hydraulics do work. So in the top left, we have the raised up version, and in the bottom right, we have the lowered version. So this is just the first runs with each of them. And I really expected the raised up version to have a whole bunch of issues. But as you'll see here, the raised up version I was being more cautious with, but it could actually handle itself pretty well. Whereas you saw the lowered version, it got squirrely and wanted to slide around. When it was actually raised up, the car drove more consistent. Like, I wasn't really worried about it spinning its tires or doing anything crazy, and it would drive quite fast. You see how it's running it down. It's hitting 90 miles an hour while the other one has ruined itself on the rocks. But yeah, for the first run out, this car was doing really well, like the rest of them. And this is still raised up, but it just doesn't, I guess when it's raised up, it's got power cut, so it doesn't have the immense amount of wheel spin. It's not putting as much power down, but it'll run. It's still going 70 miles an hour. Now, the raised up version certainly doesn't have any extra grip on the dirt, and it doesn't help it too much, but it is pretty nice, and it's overall not bad, though it still does have issues on the dirt, like most cars, unless they're designed for it. You can see I can't push the car super hard this time. Unlike the last 2 vehicles, the car got a little squirrely and hits that tree, so that's a new one. And that tree totally ripped the side of the car off. It just said, nope, this is mine now. Right before the water. That's sad. So here's the lowered version. And I had a lot more issues with the lower versions. I decided to run the lower and the higher just as a comparison to see whether, there was a major difference between the two, and I was surprised by the results. I expected the lowered version to have you know, a little bit more wheel spin, but I also expected it to go a lot faster. But it ended up just killing itself more than the other one. So here they are, lined up again. The raised up is in the top left, and the lowered version is in the bottom right. And you can see as they go down the road, they're right about the same as far as getting up to speed, but the lowered version really wants to get sideways, whereas the higher version just isn't having any kind of problems. I really don't know quite why. The raised up version went a little bit wide, whereas the lowered one kind of drifted a little bit around that corner. And up until this point, they're nearly even, but because the lowered version kept trying to spin out as much as it did, I had to be way more careful on the gas, which meant you can see over the course of it, the lowered version is just getting more and more distance because I'm having to be so much more careful with it in the lowered style. I ran a little bit wide coming up into the highway area, but the lowered version slides itself onto the highway and can't really get itself going. Let's see, how fast do they get going? It's a 70, just over 70 in the raised up version, and I could only get up to about 50 before I had to really get on the brakes with the lowered. To come onto the dirt, you can see they're both gonna have a little bit of an issue, and the higher suspension is kinda awkward. It almost makes it more bouncy, but because the lowered one side is so low, it's just kind of floating. Now, when it came to the water, being raised up actually did kind of help the car a little bit. You can see, because the other one was lowered, it actually got bogged down a lot more. It's running its entire body through the water. And that made a massive difference. Up until this point, the two were running relatively similar, but I did not expect this result. I really thought that the one that was raised up was going to be so much slower than when it was lower. But turns out it wasn't. And you can even see here trying to do some donut. The raised up version would not do it. It would just drive in circles. Whereas while it was lowered down, it would spin in circles all day long. Now, these cars did have automatics, so there is that. But so let's get on to the times. And we have a new third place with the Legrand V6 Sport. I really did not expect it to get such a fast time. That was craziness, but it was so consistent. And the front wheel drive really helped it pull its way through any of the obstacles. We have the fastest of the rally gravel spec cars with the I series getting a 2:29, putting itself into 5th overall, which is a really good showing. Again, I liked the way that one drove. Now, the Sunburst was also all-wheel drive, but the I series made it more stable overall, whereas the Sunburst was very twitchy, the brakes were too sharp. It just couldn't quite get through. Now we have to go to the next set of cars where we see the Blue Buck. The Lowrider raised up did get a 41 or 241.99, and while it was lowered, it got a 246.97. I did not expect a 5-second difference in that way. If anything, I really thought the lowered version would have it. Now I'm sure in like a straight line race or something, maybe it being lowered down would help it a lot more, but it just couldn't get the grip to actually reach the road. And so because it had seemingly less power raised up, it was able to make the most of it and actually get through the course. With that, that is going to be the end of the episode. I think I have a little bit of messing around with the Lowrider hydraulics here. So you can watch my horrible hydraulics show. And I'll see y'all next time. Have a great one.